Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to have Nicole here today, who is all about raising soul-aligned kids and having soul-aligned business. And the reason I reached out to her was because I feel like it's so easy to get swept up in the hustle of everything going on, and we end up so dysregulated in the process. So, Nicole, I would love you to share who you are, what you're all about, and tell us where you're from or where you're coming from.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Katie. As she said, I'm Nicole Amber, and I have a background. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist, and I started an online business almost 3 years ago now. And from that journey, I really recognized the need to connect with parents on a deeper level. I feel like so much of the work we do as occupational therapists in wanting the best for families and the kiddos and dependents, there are these underlying factors or circumstances that parents are navigating that sometimes limits them from like getting the full scope of OT and our ability to really help them. So I started just having deeper conversations with parents, like, what are you working through? What does life look like for you? And then just in asking those questions, you see so much of what parents are navigating on a daily basis and how they're not necessarily able to take the information that we're offering because they're in survival mode a lot of times. So it kind of naturally evolved from like, okay, let me get to the root of what's really going on with these families to help them thrive. And in that, it really just naturally flew. Oh, wow, I cannot speak today. And there was a natural flow into my journey as a parent and conscious parenting that really opened the door for so many things for me. I became a mama, and I was met with some really difficult circumstances. I had a traumatic birth experience, and I also realized a lot of the limiting beliefs and a lot of the conditioning I had taken on throughout my childhood into adulthood. And my beautiful son was a mirror of that. And so I said, man, like I'm working through so much of the crap that so many other parents are working through that it's really hard to do what you feel intuitively drawn to do as a parent. So that's a lot of the work that I am doing with these parents now. It's like, let's shed a lot of these limiting beliefs, the conditioning that society puts upon us of what's a good parent, what does a good child look like, and get to the heart of what it is we're here to do with our kiddos because they're their own soul and they have their own path, and we're really here to guide. I feel like we don't have to do as much parenting as we are told we need to do, and so it's a whole unlearning process and then relearning.
Part of why, or a big reason I reached out to you, Nicole, was one, we've connected before. You're a pediatric OT, so many aligned things there. And then also this recognizing that, what is good or what is wanting the best for kids, and just your experience as a parent and kind of picking your brain about that and how it guides your life now. So I would love to hear kind of what impacts your relationship with your kids, or how has that shifted since having this mirror in your son, or how has that progress or progression been over time? I think something I get asked often is this possible? This is so countercultural. This is so different. I'm the only one in my family system doing this, or everyone's judging me. They think my kid's crazy and I can't control them, all these judgments. So how does your relationship with your kids guide what you do, or how has it shifted over time?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful question. And I think like the biggest piece of this for me is I had to recognize I had a lot of healing to do myself first, because without the awareness of that, we're often projecting our own insecurities, our own, like, wanting to protect ourselves, then protect our children, right? And so it's this learning to become aware of, again, where have we been conditioned? So that me giving birth to Kai was really this like multiple year journey of like, wow, there are all these places where I've been taught that this is the right path or this is the right way to do things. Your worth is tied up in X, Y, and Z. The way people perceive you is also really important. And and linking all of those factors with safety, which, as you know, is like, okay, that's where we feel regulated and stable and like able to function. And so it's a natural thing then to want to keep your kids safe. And if your parameter of safety is, okay, how people are perceiving me, I'm staying on this track that everyone agrees with, society says is okay. Okay, of course I want that for my kid. I don't want my child to be looked at strange. So again, it's like, for me, everything shifted when I was able to see that, wow, okay, there's a lot of things that are not necessarily true in and of themselves, and that I have linked with my worthiness, my safety, my stability. And so I started to create a different reality for myself and ask questions like, is it true, that this could look different and I could still be safe? Is it true that I'm worthy regardless of whether so-and-so over here thinks I'm worthy? And so on that path and being able to really again, let go of some of this unconscious weight that so many of us parents carry, I was able to parent from a completely different lens. And it allowed me to really be conscious about the words that I was using and the unconscious expectations I was placing on my little ones, right? And even in school, with oh, be a good girl, be a good boy. As you're saying, what does that even mean? It's like, what ultimately am I trying to instill in my kids? And that's why I think it's so important. I really have my clients sit and think about this. What is your vision for parenting? Again, what are you trying to impart on your kiddos? Because if you have clarity on what your mission is or what your vision is, then it's easier to take steps in alignment with that on a day-to-day basis. And when you step out of alignment, which we all will, because we're constantly shedding these layers of conditioning, it's easier to recognize oh, that's not really in keeping with my big vision and what it is I'm ultimately trying to do with my kiddos. Yeah.
I have so many thoughts about the points of going back to safety and living your values, and how so often we've learned this definition of what safe is: be good, stay in line, don't get in trouble, don't be seen in a way that you'll get negative feedback, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think for me personally, it was looking at my value of, I like to connect with people, or I like to be with people. And then seeing how I was hustling through my day and not able to connect with people. I had no space in my schedule, and a lot of it was survival rooted from childhood. And I need to work, I need to make money, I need to do this. So my sense of safety was really off in my body. My neuroception, or my nervous system, picked up on the fact that I need to work, I need to hustle, I need this urgency. But then later in life, I started to think, wait, I value connecting with people, but here I am rushing through my day, hustling, dismissing and being, a little bit, not irritated, but just if somebody tried to slow me down, it felt unsafe or threatening. So breaking through that, and I think about that often with kids and what we're modeling. Do I have time to check out what a kid is showing me? Just this morning I was with my friend's kids, and we were at a frog pond, and we were kind of talking, and they'd come over and want to show us something. And it's like, am I living my value of, okay, I want to connect, I want to show this child that we have time, there is space, all these ideas of safety that really feel nurturing to me, versus just working out of survival. How does this show up with your kids on a day-to-day basis? Like a day-to-day in it, this is all easier said than done, I feel
Yeah,
like, because
definitely.
our body takes over, and then we're living our patterns, or repeating the patterns that weren't helpful, even though they're not aligned with our vision, our values. And I'm so curious what your day-to-day looks like and how it shows up.
Yeah, that's it. That's a really beautiful point. And as you said, we're human. So we're not going to get this right 100% of the time. And thankfully, because of COVID, we've had a lot more spaciousness in our routine and our day to day, which has really kind of primed the pump for me to hopefully continue this. And of course, gets, as I'm sure you know, and you get plenty of questions about this, like the school routine, and it's like you have the schedule and kind of how do you merge the spaciousness and the we got to go. But I have created, and this is why it was important for me to sort of recreate my own reality. And it took me some time, but I'm really proud of the fact that the business I have now, I get to intentionally create more spaciousness. So it's like I'm dictating my schedule, and beautifully enough, my kiddos are an integral part of my business. And so it's actually important, not only for us as a family unit, but even for the success of my business, that like we do have this spaciousness, that everyone is feeling seen and heard and regulated, for the family unit to thrive and ultimately for the business to do well. And so it's kind of interwoven in every intersect of my life at this point, which is great. But when I mess up, I like to do what I call a conscious conversation. So there are times where I just have a slight awareness that it's like, oh, I'm off. It's like I'm not really in tune to what my kiddo is saying or what they're needing from me. And I am a little dismissive because maybe I'm hoping for this time for self-care, and in comes kiddos. And so when I have that awareness of like, that probably wasn't it. That feels like out of alignment. I do what I call a conscious conversation. And it's really just like asking Kai, like, hey, do you have a minute? And we kind of sit and I sort of say like, hey, I understand like you were trying to come to mama and, you wanted to show me something. I want to apologize because I wasn't really available for that, but I would love to see what you wanted to share. So it's kind of this correction of like, I recognize where I could have done better, and this is what I'll do next time to help mama do better, and what is it that you wanted to show me, right? Because that's sort of modeling, okay, it's all right that we make mistakes, it's just let's ask ourselves like, what could we do differently next time, and try again. So that's kind of how we navigate that here at home, and it's always a work in progress. So
It sounds so authentic and so almost like repair. Like we have all these ruptures, and so many of us, I think, didn't get repairs that feel really like true connection, where we're not just dusting things under the rug. We can show up as messy, imperfect humans and say that we messed up. And also it helps them get to know you as a person. I think so often we miss out on knowing our parents as people because of the hustle or the idea that everything should be perfect. So if it's not, we just won't talk about it, and we'll just hope it goes away.
Okay.
So is this different from your own childhood? Like, is this a different way? You said
Okay.
the conditioning, the ideas,
Yes.
like this way of interaction is.
Oh yeah, it's incredible, and I think it's true for a lot of us. I mean, it's amazing if we had parents that were in tune, but I, especially, being Black, it's like it was very much like do what I say. There's repercussions if you don't, a lot of like physical repercussions if you don't, and that's how their parents were raised and generationally. And so really having to break so many ancestral cycles for me, and there's so many layers, it's so nuanced. And I realized like a big breakthrough I had was around emotional vulnerability, because both my parents, it was very much, if there was like no crying in front of kiddos ever, it was like this rare occasion if I ever saw tears from either parent. And I get the concept behind like you want to protect your kiddo. I think that's what a lot of us think, but I had this ginormous breakthrough around like, your kiddos want to know, they want to know how you're feeling, that it's safe to have emotions. And I had to undo a lot of coding around like, protect Kai from seeing me sad. And it's like, no, this is a beautiful opportunity to teach and say like, it's okay that I'm sad. It's an emotion. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to make space for it, and it's going to move through me, and I will be all right, So, and it just, that was a huge breakthrough for me, because it was like, this is a conscious conversation opportunity. This is like, and what was so beautiful is that then I saw Kai's reaction. He's so unfazed by it, because it's so natural for kids to feel their emotions and move through it. Why wouldn't it be the same for them watching mom or dad? It's like, okay, you're sad, you'll be okay. They don't break down in agony of like, oh no, mom's sad, the whole world's coming to an end, like we believe they will. So yes, so much, unlearning and so many breakthroughs and relearning, because it was a completely different way with my parents and their parents too.
That's such a good point of just different, generational or cultural or different views of things, and how I think it's so important not to have judgment over the different ways that people are doing things, because that safety, if people think that spanking their kid is that keeping their kid in line and that's
Yes.
safe or
Yeah.
secure, or that won't bring them attention, it's just there's so many layers to that, where
Absolutely.
um, again, if we're hustling through life and it's so attached to our way is the right way, and this is
Yep.
everyone should be, it gets in the way of connecting with people and having the awareness to change and get vulnerable enough to change. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
well, Nicole, I would love to know how you serve families now. So you started off as a pediatric OT YouTuber extraordinaire. Uh, Tell us about your path and how you are supporting people now and anything you're offering.
Yeah, yeah. So, as I sort of mentioned before, I am a parenting coach. So, I work in a few different capacities. So, I offer some courses that are either pre recorded or programs where you kind of come in my live energy, and it's sort of like you get to ask questions as we move through content. I also offer one on one mentorship. So, kind of that like private container where it's like you feel completely held and just can be all of you and bring everything that you want to work through to the forefront. And yeah, those are the main places that I'm working with my mamas right now. And then I'm always on the socials. So whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, I love serving my families there too. You can find free content and new things that I'm up to there. So.
That sounds amazing. I think the word I will take away from our conversation today that you said is spaciousness.
Mm.
The spaciousness.
Does that feel good, right? That's a very regulating
Sure.
word. Oh my gosh.
Sunglasses off. Yes, really it. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you
And
for having me, Katie. It's always a pleasure.
it really was.
Mhm.
Where can people find you?
So on YouTube, you can find me Nekole Amber. Same on Instagram, it's Nekole.Amber, and Facebook, just Nekole Amber. And I spell my name a little different. It's Nekole. So,
Awesome. And I will tag you there in case anyone forgets the spelling. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Next time.
All right.